Hello, welcome to Little Vintage Dread and welcome to a very highly requested video, which is me ranking my Agatha Christie Poirot books in order from my least favourite all the way up to my favourite. Now, some of you might know my favourites already. If you've watched my favourite Agatha Christie, I did a top 11 of her books, which I'll leave you up here if you haven't watched that already, but that is all of them. These are ranking all of my Poirot from least favourite to my favourites. So shall we get started? Now, I do have to put a little disclaimer, and I'm sorry if your favourite of Poirot's is one of my least favourite. It's just me being honest, and you know, we all have different tastes. So that's what's great about Agatha Christie, because no matter what your taste does, I'm sure that there is a book out there that everyone will love and enjoy and think is incredible. So let's get straight into it. So my least favourite of Agatha Christie's Hercule Poirot novels is Third Girl. I remember when I first read this, I was like, this has got to be one of the weirdest books I've ever read. I was really hoping I was going to love this because I had watched the adaptation starring David Suchet and Zoe Wanamaker before I read it, and I don't think I should have done that because that kind of, I thought I knew what was going to happen, but this was a bit weird and it wasn't what I was hoping it was going to be. So yeah, my least favourite. Sorry to say, but there it is. Although, do you know what I should say about these? Although they're my least favourite, they're all like a minimum of 3 stars. So they're all good, just not amazing. You know, these books are either 3, 4 or 5-star books, and yeah. That's where I feel. So the next one I have is The Big Four. Now, I'm sorry because I know a lot of people do love this book. Now, this book is very different to Agatha Christie's. This is not the sort of cosy crime sort of feel to it. It's very different, and I just didn't like that. So yeah, that's why it's one of my least favourite, just because it's very unlike her others, and I just prefer her cosy crime mysteries. Then we have Murder in Mesopotamia. Again, it's just one that is good. I don't think it's great. I don't think the plot line is anything to kind of write home about. I mean, it's alright, just for me, not one of her best. Next, we have Evil Under the Sun, which is one that has been adapted on TV quite a few times, and similar to Murder in Mesopotamia. It's good, it's not great, it's not the strongest. I feel like I get really excited when I start reading it, and then once the murder's taken place, I kind of lose my way with it a little bit, and the excitement just kind of drops off for me, and by the end I'm kind of not really bothered about who's done it. But I just really like the cover of this because it looks like a postcard. It's cool. 3-act tragedy. This, again, it's good, it's just not great. For me, the problem with this book is there's not enough Poirot. He's in at the beginning, then he goes away, then he's back in at the end, and I want him present all throughout. It's good, just not great. Then we have One to Buckle My Shoe. Another good one, but not great one. It's one that for me, I think it's just a little bit forgettable. Sorry to say. Then we have The Clocks. This is really good. We're starting off in the 4 stars now. This is really good, but just not amazing. Then the next one is Halloween Party. I really enjoy this one. As I said, we're into the 4 stars now, and I do try to read this all the time around Halloween. It is one of her later ones, but it is still really, really good. Then we have Taken at the Flood, and I have to say I really love the TV adaptation of this book. I think that is really good, but the book is really strong too. Then one that I read most years, and that is Hercule Poirot's Christmas. You can probably guess the time of year that I read this book. That's right, the summer, Christmas. Then we have Cat Among the Pigeons, which is set in a school and some teachers start to get bumped off, and it's really good. After the Funeral is also a really strong one. It's enjoyable, it's wonderful, but just not one that I reach to again and again. Appointment with Death is one that when I do read, I tend to read quite quickly, and it's a lovely one to read when the heat is out, when we have a thing called summer, which currently in England we don't have. We've had a heat wave, but it's gone. We're now in the rain. Dumb Witness, which I do really enjoy and I think is incredible, mostly because of the dog. There is a dog in it called Bob, and he's an integral part of the case. Death in the Clouds, whenever I see this cover, it reminds me of Doctor Who, if you've seen that one. That's a really good one. This one is a really good, really strong book where a murder takes place on an aeroplane, and it's death literally in the clouds. Next for me is Cards on the Table. I really like this one because it has Ariadne Oliver in it, and I love Ariadne Oliver. She is my favourite of Agatha Christie's characters, and I like how she uses her feminine intuition to work out the case, and Poirot uses his little grey cells to do the same thing. Then a very famous one, Death on the Nile. This is really good, but for me, I've watched so many adaptations of this that I think that's kind of what puts me off reading the book as much, because I just watch it all the time. Then we have Murder on the Links, which is a second full-length novel of Hercule Poirot, and it's another one that is narrated by Captain Hastings, and I love Captain Hastings. He's so cool. Another one of her most famous works, this is The Murder of Roger Ackroyd. This is really good. It's such a good book, and yeah, it deserves all the hype that it gets because it's just brilliant. Okay, so that was all the 3-star and the 4-star books. So the first of these 5-star books from least favourite to favourite, although still amazing because of course they're 5-star reads, we have The Hollow. This is set in the countryside at a country house, and the Agatels, and Poirot is of course there, as he always is, and a man is lying there by a swimming pool with his blood just dripping into the water, and his wife is standing over him holding a gun, but not is all as it may seem. Then we have The Mystery of the Blue Train. I really like this one. So this one is set, I think it's set in Nice, and it's about this young woman called Ruth Kettering who is on the train, but she ends up getting murdered, and then her very famous ruby jewel goes missing, and suspicion points to her estranged husband. But did he do it? If not, who did? Then we have The ABC Murders, which is another brilliant one and so clever of Agatha Christie. So we have a murderer going round murdering people depending on what their name is in the place where they are. So we have Alice Asher in Andover, and then B, C, D, etc. And once the killing has taken place, the killer leaves ABC railway guide there. That's just a little touch as well, and they tease Poirot by sending him letters. It's a really good one. It's really creepy as well. One of the creepiest Agatha Christie's I've ever read. Then for me we have the first one. This is Agatha Christie's very first case and Poirot's first case, and this is A Mysterious Affair at Styles, which is where it all begins, and it is narrated of course by the wonderful Captain Hastings, and it is about a murder that happens at a country house, like so many of these books, and it's just a joy to see Poirot and Hastings together. Then one that isn't talked about too much but is a favourite of mine, this is Elephants Can Remember. This is one of Agatha Christie's later ones, and this is about a kind of cold case sort of thing. So it's a murder that happened a long time ago, but was it a murder? So it's a couple that were found shot dead, but who killed who? Was it a suicide pact? What really went on? And Poirot discovers what happened, and Ariadne Oliver is in this as well, and it's just wonderful. Then we have another one which features Ariadne Oliver. This is Dead Man's Folly, and this is about Sir George and Lady Stubbs who hold a village fete. And as part of that kind of village fete thing, they decide to hold this murder mystery, hence why they get Ariadne Oliver in to design it all. But the murder mystery kind of goes wrong because the person who's playing dead ends up actually being dead. Dun dun dun. It's really good, and it's such a typical fun Agatha Christie cosy read that every time I read it I just adore it. Then we have the oh so famous Murder on the Orient Express, where a murder happens, funnily enough, on the Orient Express, but not all as it seems. It's not a clear cut murder. Who did it? Read it and find out, but it is not what you will think. Then we have Lord Edgware Dies. This one, I believe in America, is called 13 at Dinner, something like that. This is about a murder of Lord Edgware which takes place, and finger of suspicion automatically points to his wife, Lady Edgware. But Lady Edgware was at dinner. There was 13 guests, funnily enough, and she was there at dinner. So how can she have killed her husband? Did she do it? Well, Poirot will investigate and find out. Then we have Hickory Dickory Dock, which is about murder of students. So it's set in student housing, and it is just a lot of fun. I love any book set at university, and even murder. I'll read that. And now we are on to my top 5 of my Agatha Christie Poirot books. So in at number 5, Peril at End House. So this is set at an end house in the lovely coastside, and a woman called Nick Buckley thinks she's had attempts made on her life, and Poirot investigates and finds out that it's quite sinister. Then we have my favourite book featuring Ariadne Oliver, who's my favourite character of Agatha Christie's, and this is Mrs McGinty's Dead. Now this book, you can probably work out, it's about a murder of a woman called Mrs McGinty, who's a char lady, and she is murdered, and the finger of suspicion goes to James Bentley, who's her lodger, because money is found there and it seems like he has motive to get the money. But the person investigating it comes to Poirot and says, I've done it, you know, it's all done, dusted, but just something doesn't sit right, can you investigate for me? And he does, and it's a really good one. It's so, so good. Then we have Curtain, Poirot's last case, which you can kind of guess is the end of these books. This book is one that I haven't read too much. I've read it about 3 times, something like that, but it's just such an emotional read for me. This is the end, and Poirot has one last case to solve, and a very different type of murderer that he has to stop, because they are so, so dangerous. And finally, we are down to my last 2. Now these 2 I always find really difficult to rate, because every time I read one or the other, it then changes over. So if I read one, I'm like, oh no, that is my favourite. And then I read the other one and then I'm like, oh no, that's my favourite. So these 2 are very much together. But one probably sneaks slightly ahead of the other most of the time, but not all the time. So just for organisational sake, I'll put this one second, but a lot of the time it is first. It is Sad Cypress. So this book is a wonderful book that starts in the courtroom and ends in the courtroom, and it is about a woman called Eleanor Carlyle, who is charged with the murder of her ex-fiance's lover, sort of thing, called Mary Gerard. And it kind of looks like she had the motive, the means, the opportunity to murder Mary, and it looks pretty much an open and shut case, but Poirot's there to investigate and find out what really happened, and it's such a good one. And then finally we have Five Little Pigs, although I do completely adore this one and think it is incredible. Five Little Pigs, if push comes to shove, I would pick as the ultimate favourite of Agatha Christie Poirot's. This book is a book that we go back in time. So a young woman comes to Poirot and says, my name is Caroline Crail and I want you to go back and look at the case of the murder of my father. And Poirot does that. So he's looking back at the murder of Amyas Crail, who was an artist. Amyas Crail was murdered, and it was convicted that he was murdered by his wife, also called Caroline Crail. But the younger Caroline Crail doesn't think that her mother was guilty, and Caroline Crail, the older, died in prison within a year of her service, so she's gone, and it's kind of just been left. But young Caroline Crail's like, I want you to find out what happened, so he does, and he goes and talks to the prosecution involved, etc, etc, of the trial, and he goes to speak to the 5 little pigs, the 5 key witnesses, to work out what really happened, and oh, it's so good. The ending of this is just savage. It's wonderful. It's so, so good. So yeah, those 2 are my best friends. So there you have it, that is it. That is my ranking of Agatha Christie Poirot books from least favourite to favourite. Although when I say least favourite, I mean 3 stars. They're still good, they're just not amazing. But then I do have my amazing books in there as well. So I would love to know what are your favourite and least favourite books in the comment section below. You don't have to do all 30 odd, but just, I don't know, give me your least 3 and your top 5 or something like that, because I would love to know. Anyway, that's it for this video. If you liked it, please give it a big thumbs up and let me know if you'd like me to carry on doing these. Would you like me to do, say, a Miss Marple version of these and a standalone, etc? Anyway, that's it for this video. Take care, and I shall see you soon for the next one. Bye for now.